the media does not correct themselves on the front page.
They are not in the business of correcting themselves.
They do it on page 8, or they do it quietly. Here's the actual audio. They don't come out with the same vigor and correct themselves.
Well, one of the best things I've seen on the news of late, with the various things that have happened, the Boston bombing, when they try to just jump on the story and get a little premature, is the earlier reports had it this way, but this way.
That's
it's like, wait a minute.
Word, yeah.
You're saying earlier reports. You were the ones that said it.
Right.
You guys were
Don't
the
make
ones
it
that
sound
pushed
like
it
it was
forward.
this vague information that came into you.
Right.
You jumped the gun and reported it this way.
Right.
And with your brother's case, it's obvious they did the same thing.
Right.
They wanted this to be some type of racial injustice that was going on.
Yeah.
They wanted the reason that this happened was that your brother was obviously a racist, and he was just out to hurt someone of color that night. And looking at the facts, it seems, especially that nothing could be further from the truth.
I think hopefully going forward from this, I mean, we're having this conversation now. There are things that get, like you said, the Boston bombing, and whatnot, that get misreported and earlier reports suggest, as it were,
Yes.
But I don't think we can afford to do that with race. I think race and the word racist or racism need to have a very revered place in light of the civil rights legacy. I think there is a point to respecting what those words actually mean, in our language.
You're taking the sting out of it and the reality out of it if you just throw it on something that is absolutely not racist.
Right. I couldn't agree more. I mean, that has to be what comes from this in the end, is that we have to understand that the media acted with incompetence. They took the word of these attorneys, spinning this who have now proven financial motives in the outcome of this narrative. And they reported their story as fact, and that's the definition of incompetence.
Right.
If you take the word of people who stand to make money or millions from getting people to believe something, that's the very definition of incompetence. So I think when you add race to that, we need to say again, never again after this case.
Yeah. When you see something like justice for Trayvon, and then you say something like, how about justice for George? Again, you're called racist if you say something like
Absolutely.
that. Absolutely. Doesn't just saying justice for Trayvon tip the scales?
I think it's a hard art. I'm not a black man, as you all can see, so it's very hard for me to make this argument sometimes, but I think that our country has the original sin, as it were, of slavery, of racism. And I think that sometimes people, or I should say, racism vis-a-vis slavery, via slavery. And I think that sometimes people are responding emotionally to very straightforward facts. And I think that I can't blame them for feeling the way they do, Jim, when you brought up the tapes, and the editing and whatnot. If you think that the news informs, if you are still that misinformed, that you actually think that the news informs you, and that is how you are informed, that this is what actually happened, I don't have any problem with that. It doesn't help us, but if that's what you really think because that's what you're being told 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I would feel the same way if I were so misinformed. I know my own brother. I know what actually happened, so I don't feel that way. But I think that the challenge is getting people that are reacting emotionally and having emotional commitments to the narrative to start to think intellectually about what actually happened and to start kind of divorcing those two elements between the feeling and the fact and getting to the bottom of it. Our system is not perfect, but I do believe it's the best in the world, and it kind of is like this filter, right, for what is allowed in and what's not in court, So emotion doesn't play in court.
No.
Facts do,
It's
and
what the blindfold's for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that will be. That's why I'm glad that so many members of the public are attending. They're handling that lottery really well.
Right.
I think that the public has to participate to respect the outcome. And I think that, going forward, it should be about justice and not about color. And we should have a reflex after a case like this to whenever somebody brings up race, no matter what the race is, if it's white, if it's I don't care what the race, or if it's an invented race like white Hispanic, because we'll have other
Yes, of
invented
course.
races, right? We should throw up a red flag and say not so fast, and then never again, because it doesn't do us any good to come to these foregone conclusions based on emotion about what may or may not have happened when something is so sensitive and so tragic. It doesn't help us. It's a disservice to us, and it should be about fact.